be anything, oh, whoa, 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 whoa.
Hello, everyone. Your girl Soso Babes here. Happy Saturday. Soso Babe. While I wait on a few people to join, I'm going to go ahead and share the video. And looking forward to having a ton of you here. Happy Saturday. And if you join me, please kindly let me know where you're watching from. Sorry. Give your girl Soso Babes a shout out. Let me know where you're watching from. And again, if you follow me, you know I'm celebrating my birthday all July. So happy birthday, wishes are still welcome. Yep, I can be strange like that. Thank you so much for joining. Just trying to share this as well. So awesome. I think I've shared. If you join me, kindly share as well. Whisper Wire, hello. Thank you for joining me. Whisper Wire, can you please confirm that you can hear me properly? I did not use my mic, so I'm hoping that my sound is not bad. If you can, I appreciate it. If you can hear me properly, I just want to get confirmation to make sure that the sound is okay. Thanks again, and happy for those of you watching on YouTube. Thank you so much. And if you're on Facebook, I also have a YouTube channel. Thank you, Whisper. I appreciate. I also have a YouTube channel, so I broadcast both on YouTube and on Facebook. And please, if you don't mind, I call on you to please subscribe to my YouTube channel as well. The YouTube channel is my name, Solange Che. And again, the Facebook is a podcast. You can be anything podcast. So thank you. I appreciate. Awesome. Thank you, Whisper Warrior. Thanks for confirming my sound. So yeah, it's been a long month. It's been a great month to me so far, and I love July. I've always talked about July and how it makes me feel. And yes, I'll post the link, my YouTube link before I will. It's just Solange Che, my last name and my first name. Yep, I can actually post that and pin it so that if people join, they can subscribe to my channel as well. Because I'm trying to build content, build an audience both on YouTube and on Facebook. Okay, there we go. Give me a second. Let me share the page. Okay, copy link and paste it in Facebook. It's awesome. So yeah, that's my That's my YouTube channel. So if you join here, you follow me on Facebook, please, I pasted my YouTube channel as well. Kindly subscribe to my channel on YouTube. And I do appreciate you all for the love and the support you give me on this platform. It's not as easy as when I thought about this. I used to think that it would be okay, I just wake up and I turn on my camera and I talk. But of course, if you're a content creator, you know that it's not the easiest thing to do. What keeps me going is the fact that I love doing this. It's if I'm not working, podcasting or talking like this with people is what I love to do. So today I want us to talk about small talk, right? And for those who are not here will watch this, but I'm just going to go ahead and have the chat. I want us to talk about small talk. And when we're talking about small talk, what is small talk? Small talk, we're referring to those phrases, those short conversations that you can have with people when you want to build a conversation, right? What is small talk? What is it that you can meet somebody that you have never met before, maybe, or you meet somebody that it's been a long time you people met, and you want to have a conversation with them. You want to be able to just chat, be comfortable and talk without just sitting there idling. Because sometimes you go somewhere, you meet people, you have to wait, and you don't even know what to do. Right? You get stranded in not knowing what to say. So I want to use the next 30 to 45 minutes. Let's talk about small talk. What are some of the phrases that you can use to generate small talk or to start small talk, to start conversations that are not hurtful, conversations that people can engage with you, right? And when we talk, when you hear of small talk, over there are different things that come to mind. There are some specific aspects of life that you want to look into when you're considering small talk, when you're considering starting small talk. And this could be, it varies from work. You can start small talk from work related conversations. You can just do life in general conversations. You can look at travel. You can talk of food. One of the most common ones that people talk about in the West, again, not in my country, Cameroon. Yeah, we talk weather a little bit, but one of the most common ones is weather, right? Most people, the only small talk they know is weather related. So you hear people, you just meet someone and they're asking you, oh, maybe they're praising the weather or they are complaining about the weather. There is always some weather related thing, right? So that's very common. That's one thing that I noticed personally when I traveled out of my country. A lot of people, the people like to talk about weather. And I was wondering, is it that these people care too much about weather or what is it? And as time went on, I realized that it is small talk. It's just a topic that, again, some people will call this icebreakers, right? You want to break the ice. You don't want the environment. You don't want places. You don't want to sit somewhere with someone and there is nothing you can talk about. So again, am I safe to say small talk and icebreakers, they are similar? Yeah. And so if you happen to watch this and you can think of any small talk questions that you will bring up and that I'll probably not mention here, please put in the comment section. Let me know your thoughts. You're learning. I am learning. I don't sit here and talk because I know it all. These are also learning experiences for me because, man, is there a long line of life ahead of me? Yes. And I always look for those opportunities to learn from other people as well. So your thoughts are very much welcome. Just add them to the comment section and I will be reading them. Okay. So when we're thinking small talk, we are looking at how you can begin a conversation. It starts with beginning that conversation, right? What I just referred to as ice, like as an icebreaker, right? You want to be able to begin a conversation and the different places where you can have conversations like this. It could be that you're out there attending a conference or you're some seminar. It could be anything, a summit, anywhere. And it happens that you have to wait for maybe the organizers or for your leader or somebody to come in and begin. But you're not there alone, you're there with other people. You don't just want to go in there and sit. And again, the bad habit we all have today is that we go to those places and we sit on our phones. right? It could be that you are going out for dinner. Again, I'm just giving you some examples of places where you need small talk. You want to know what to talk about. Maybe you're going out, you've gone out for dinner with colleagues at work, or you went for a conference and you decided to go back there and fine girl brain, everything is already. Thank you so much, Ebonge Martins. Thank you for joining. And you sit out there and you want to talk to these people instead of being on your phone like most of us do. It is a terrible habit. I am working towards not doing that, but please do not sit somewhere with people you're together and probably waiting for someone or waiting for your food to be served and you're on your phone. It is rude. And that is why it is important for us to learn how to use small talk. That is one of the reasons that I thought of having this conversation today on our Learning Saturday. Okay. So you're saying now that you want to start a conversation. As I mentioned earlier on, depending on the kind of environment you find yourself in, it could be work, it could be something related to work, it could just be a conference you're attending about maybe some health related thing, maybe digital marketing, anything, right? It could be a conference you're attending about how to, for example, we have events. We're talking about events. Even in Cameroon, we had events like the Simfest event, all of those conferences or summits or festivals that people meet at, and you have the conversation, you have the opportunity to talk to people that you don't meet in your everyday life, right? So what are some of the things that you can say to make people have conversations with you, and not conversations that will make anybody uncomfortable, but conversations that anybody can have comfortably? So these are just simple phrases, easy things that you can say to someone. Okay, let's use the example of a conference. I'm out there. I've decided to go attend a conference about podcasting because I dream. If I am not working, as I said on my post earlier today, if I'm not working, I want to be out here talking to people, listening to people's experiences, their stories, just their challenges. And that's what I love doing, right? If I don't have to work, that's what I'm going to do with my time. So let's take that example and out there. What are some of the conversations? What are some of the questions that you can throw out there? And easy peasy, right? Like, hey, I meet you. I'm like, hey, I'm so babes, right? What brings you here? You get it? So that's a very simple question. I just meet someone, I'm like, hey, I'm so babes. What brings you here? We are all attending this conference, but truth is, people attend these conferences for different reasons. I just gave you people my own reason. Your reason for going to that same conference, even if it is a conference about podcast and you're a podcaster as well, you get to ask that question, right? It's just like, okay, let's take the example. My other brother just attended a conference in the ICT Summit, and we've seen videos of him online, and he's talking about artificial intelligence, what in information technology in Cameroon and all of that. You meet someone like that at a conference. Let's say you're in Cameroon and you attended that summit, and you have an opportunity, you're seated right next to him, and you're like, hey, my name is so babes, what brings you here? That gives the other person, the person you're trying to initiate a conversation with, the opportunity to talk about what they are doing. And what brings you here? The reason I like this question is because it has no limit. The person can decide to tell you what they want to tell you. Right? Some people are minimalists. They'll tell you like, "Hey, yeah, I'm just here to attend this conference." Another person will tell you about the research paper they wrote about what they're coming here to do. So I think it is a very good small talk starter phrase that will enable the person you're talking to talk about themselves how they want to talk about themselves. You're not limiting them, right? You're giving them that opportunity to say as much as they want to say about themselves or as little as they want to say about themselves. right? Depending on what they tell you now, you can see if there is a follow-up question, or you can talk about yourself too, because remember, the goal here is to have comfortable conversations, create an environment where you can have comfortable conversations. So I do think that what brings you here, like, hi, with a very nice gesture, like, hi, my name is So Babe. So, hi, my name is Solange. What brings you here? And most often people will respond to that question. Another of this conversation starters, because we have the conversation starters, the beginning conversations, we also have how to keep the conversation going, which I have briefly mentioned. It's about asking follow-up questions. Then we're also going to talk about how you can close such conversations, right? We are still at the beginning. So we looked at what brings you here. There is also the question that I use a lot. The last conference I attended, the Dreaming in Color, is a Salesforce conference for people of color. And one of them, I think I asked this question to almost everybody I spoke to. The question was, are you a first timer? I use are you a first timer? Or you can say, hey, is this your first time? Like, is this your first time attending this conference? Is this your first time attending the ICT University Summit? Is this your first time attending the Cameroon International Music Festival? Is it your first time? Like, you want to have these kinds of questions are not offensive. Most people will respond to you. Most people will feel free and comfortable to talk to you. So, is it your first time? Is also a good conversation beginner. I use that a lot. And one of the people I've asked this question to before, they will go further to tell you, no, this is not my first time. This is my third Dreaming in Color conference. I attended the last two ones. Then for someone like me who is a bit of a talker, I go forward now to stretch a little bit on that conversation, because now we have set the pace on something we want to talk about. This person has just mentioned that it's not their first time. Oh, I attended the last two Dreaming in Color conferences. So what I would do now, I would jump in. I'm like, oh, what do you think? What do you think? Can you compare? Do you think that the last one, what's your thought? What do you think? Make a comparison. Is this better? Are they improving? Do you think things have, like, the quality or the people, the number of people, the attendance, the quality of the speakers, all such things, right? So that gives me now the opportunity to ask those questions. If I did not come from a place of starting a small talk, it's tough to just walk up to someone and say, hey, um, what do you think about the talks or the conversations or the sessions, the different presentations that they're having at this conference? That would be a little tougher to have. But because I came with the approach of, hi, I'm Cecil Babes. Is this your first time? Are you a first timer at the Dreaming in Color conference? And it gave me that opportunity to listen to them. It gave me that opportunity to hear what they think. And in this case, with this person's response being that this is their third conference, it now sets the pace, it sets the ground for me to ask follow-up questions. What do you think of this conference in comparison to the other conferences that you've attended to the past years? You get it? So I feel it gives you, what if, okay, let's take it on the other side. What if this person had said, yes, it is my first time? To someone like me who was also a first timer, then I'll say, likewise, it is my first time also. And what do you think of it? Are you motivated? What are you enjoying? What are some of your highlights of the conference? And if you had an opportunity, will you come again? Will you recommend this conference to other people? Right? These are all things that will come around as a result of small talk. And I feel, again, just going back to the reason I'm doing this live today, it is important for us to learn how to have small talk. There are certain things that some people say with the intention to have small talk, but they don't realize that they are being stereotypical, being offensive. And that's why it's important to just learn these basic phrases in English that nobody finds offensive, that are open, that gives the other person the opportunity to either say as little as they want or as much as they want. Right. And so we've looked at that, and we've even gone a little bit into how you can keep this small talk going. That is an instance of work. It could also be a life. Remember, when I started, I said there are different aspects that we can build small talk about. We can build small talk around work. We can build it about around life in general. We can build small talk about around travel, around food, and around weather. So these are like the main ones. It doesn't mean that it's against social media, as again social media will fall under life in general, right? It's also another aspect of life that you can really meet. You can meet. I do social media, okay? Like when I meet other Cameroonians, like again, just a quick story. Some time ago, I traveled to Houston to visit a friend, and he took me to his friend's place. And so I was sitting now with friends of a friend. And the one way that I sat there, I have never met these people. My friend dropped me off and went somewhere to take care of other businesses, and I'm just sitting there with these guys around my age, and I'm thinking, what do these guys like? I've never met them. Am I just going to sit here for the next couple of hours and do nothing and say nothing? And in my head, I'm thinking, could these guys be social media lovers? Could these guys know more? Because these are Cameroonians as well. And I'm thinking, if I were to talk about social media, would these guys want to talk about it? Would they hush me? There are people out here who don't want, they don't even want to have any conversation about our social media space. You get it? So you have to be very careful. And that is where I found myself after talking to them, saying hi and just saying general things about me. When my friend introduced me to them, he had mentioned that I'm a podcaster, that I run the You Can Be Anything podcast. And one of them tried, like, hey, what is your podcast about? And then that is not a question that you want to ask me because I am going to tell you not only about my podcast, but I'm going to tell you why I do the podcast, why I think the podcast is amazing, and why I think you should be a guest on the podcast. That is how far I always go. So I had that conversation with them. It was not, I don't think that he was able to like keep the conversation. And at the same time, I did not want to say things that I didn't need to say. I was trying to be conservative with my words, with my thoughts. Again, it's not something that I know how to do a lot. Okay. So this day I was trying really hard to not say too much, to not say what I have not been asked. If you know me, you know what I'm talking about. Okay. So when I had this conversation, so when my friend left, we talked about the podcast. I finally decided to ask them about social media. I was like, hey, do you guys follow the Cameroon social media space? Like, are you familiar with, again, for me, I'm more familiar with Facebook, right? And I'm like, hey, are you guys on Facebook? Do you follow the Cameroon social media space and stuff like that? One of them was like, I don't care about that. I think the other one was like, yes, I do. So I started calling out my favorite Cameroonian influencers, so bloggers, and all of those things. So the first question I asked, you've never seen my page? And he said, no, I'm sorry, but I don't know. You Can Be Anything podcast. That hurt a feeling, but it happens, right? So I called a few names from our Cameroon social media space, and he was like, yeah, I know that person. Yes, I know that person. I listened to that person. Yeah, oh my God, those people. So it was, to me, that was fun because if I'm not doing Salesforce, I'm doing social media, I'm doing Facebook or any other social media platform. So if I'm not talking to somebody about Salesforce, which is also a big chunk of the conversations I have, I'm talking about social media. I'm talking about what I do on the podcast and stuff like that. So this is how I was able to today these guys think they think I'm the coolest girl they've ever met. Yeah, of course I'm cool, right? They think I'm the coolest babe they ever met because I had this conversation with them and not putting any of them in a position where they'll probably feel like I'm being judgmental or I'm being offensive, but just asking the right questions, open enough questions, having open conversations where people do not feel like you're targeting them is one of the reasons you need to understand small talk, how to use small talk, and what are some of the phrases, the small talk phrases that you can use to keep conversations going. Okay. Again, I want to appreciate those of you who are watching me. Do not hesitate to put a comments in the comment section. And again, remember, let me know where you're watching from if you don't mind. And I did pin my YouTube channel on Facebook. So for those of you watching on Facebook, please kindly click on that channel and follow and subscribe to my YouTube channel. It is Solange Che. Awesome. So that is life. When it comes to life, those are some of the things we can talk about. And I talked about social media, some other questions around life that you can ask someone. It's like, hey, what are your plans? Right. Let's say it's weekend is approaching. You can ask someone, hey, what are your plans for the weekend? What are you doing this weekend? Depending on the response they give you, you will be able to see, you'll be able to tell if it's a conversation that you can keep going with or you want to switch. Right? What if, or you ask somebody like, hey, what do you do when you're not working? Right? This is you now not asking them about work, but you're asking them about what they'll do when it's not work. What do they do? And as you all know, I podcast. Some people tell you, hey, they like to hike. Others will tell you they cook. Others will tell you that they draw. Others will tell you that they like to do designs, a variety of things. Okay, there are different things that people will do when they are not working. So you can ask that questions, and depending on what their response is, if they say something that you are familiar with, that is an opportunity for you now to push on it. So, like, hone on that same thing and say, "Oh, ask questions." Right? If somebody asked you, like, hey, what do you do when you're not working? And you responded to them and you say, hey, when I'm not working, let me pick an example. When I'm not working, I make bracelets. Okay. Oh, and come to think of it, as something that I tried doing, but I abandoned my kids somewhere. That you should try it. It's very fulfilling. When you know what do you do, and the person says, "Hey, I make bracelets." Then you can, if you're not familiar, ask them, "What does it take to make bracelets? Like, what kind of bracelets do you make? Do you make them for fun? Do you make them to sell?" So you can use all those conversations. So you're using what the person tells you to build a conversation that they are comfortable having with you. Remember the word comfortable. You want to make sure that you're asking people questions that they are comfortable responding to. Okay. So when you can go into that, you can also ask them about work. You can ask them, hey, what do you do? Right? When you ask, oh God, this what do you do question. I used to hate this again. How can I put this? What do you do? I have mixed feelings about the what do you do question. Why do I have mixed feelings about this question? What do you do is a question that some people will ask you so that they can decipher, so that they can make a judgment of how they want to treat you. I have been a victim of it. I do not say that it's always the case, but it has happened and it still happens. Some people walk up to you and ask you, what do you do? Not because they are interested in learning more and not because they really just want to like spark small talk with you, but because they want to use your response to decipher how they're going to treat you. And I personally do not like that. So the what do you do question as a small talk question has uh it I have mixed feelings about it, should be told. I have mixed feelings about that question, but it is a valid question altogether. right? Because by asking somebody, what do, you have the opportunity to go into their space, you give them that opportunity to learn from them. And who knows? If we take the example of someone and you ask them, hey, what do you do? And they tell you that I am a nurse. Okay. And you're like, hey, wow, that's amazing. What do you feel about, have you always wanted to be a nurse? What is your motivation? How did you end up becoming a nurse? Right. And they tell you their response. So in this case, I'm not giving responses, but at the same time, as you're listening to this, I want you to think of your responses, because these are questions that you can go somewhere and someone else ask you. How will you respond to it? So as you're thinking of, as I'm throwing the questions out here and we are having this conversation, I want you to be thinking as well of how you will respond to that question if somebody asked you. So if someone asked you, what do you do? And you told that person that you are an influencer, you told that person that you are a pharmacist, you're a medical doctor, right? You are an IT technician, you are a DBA, whatever it is. And they ask you your motivation. What is your motivation? What motivated you? Why did you pick this career? It's good to have the response to that. So think of what you do and think of what motivated you. Why did you pick that career? This is something we think it's innate. We think that it's just there until you get asked that question. Then you will you'll remember that, hey, I've never thought of this. So this is an opportunity for you to think about it, to like ask yourself. And it also gives you an opportunity to do some kind of self-evaluation. Why am I doing this? What is my motivation behind this? Why am I a nurse? What motivated me to become a nurse? Right. And somebody can go forward to ask you, like, hey, what do you enjoy about what you do? Right. What do you enjoy about being an Oracle DBA consultant? What do you enjoy about being a nurse? What do you enjoy about being a digital marketer? You get it? So ask yourself those questions. It gives you an opportunity to evaluate yourself as well. And if you ever find yourself in a position where somebody asks you, you have a response for them. Okay. So that's like keeping the small talk conversation together. And we've looked at live, we've looked at work, we've looked at life. Let's talk a little bit about travel. Travel is also something that a lot of people, they use it to break ice. They use travel to just to get people to talk, right? So it is also a very good example of a small talk topic, right? So when we're talking about travel, this is about you asking someone like, hey, what's the most beautiful place you've ever traveled to, or what do you think about traveling? Or hey, you can start by telling them, you know what, I was in Ghana last year and I had an amazing time. Have you ever been to Ghana? Right. Or maybe you knew that they had traveled to another country and you asked them, like, hey, the last time we talked, you were going to go to Botswana. How was it? How was Botswana for you? Like, what are your experiences? Is it a country you would recommend for somebody to travel? So it's just using that travel experience or questions around travel. To some people, if you bring up travel, there are people out here who do not travel. If you ask them that question, they'll tell you straight up, I'm not a traveling type, babe. So if you ask the question about traveling and someone told you that they don't travel, it's important that you change the topic, because if they are not a traveler, they don't care for traveling, they are not going to have a conversation with you. So this is you now finding your way, be trying to find how can I put this? Trying to find that thing that will spark a conversation between you and the person you're talking to. Right? It's very normal that you bring up topics sometimes when they don't really want to talk about it. Right? It's like you meet somebody that is in your age group. Like, for example, if I meet somebody and I'm like, hey, do you have kids? Do you have any kids? Maybe I'm looking for an opportunity to talk about bringing up kids in the US. Maybe I'm looking for that opportunity. If they have kids, I'll probably want to ask them what are some of their interests. What are some of the things that your kids do? And most people, most parents love to talk about their kids. Most parents, especially parents who have kids that are involved in extracurricular activities, they love to talk about their kids. So if you ask somebody if they had a kid and they said yes, they have one, it is always like, okay, what do they do? What kind of sports do they play? Sports? What kind of sports do they play? Do you let them go out for tournaments or do they just play locally? You get it? So these are opportunities for you to have those conversations, to make people talk to you, to be able to feel free in different places. All right. And food is the next one. People love to talk about food. I love to talk about food, and one of the most common things I say about food is I eat everything. If I put it in my mouth and it doesn't go down, then I'll say I'll not eat it. Most things I eat, no, let me not say I eat everything. I eat most things. I'm not a picky eater, right? I'm not very picky when it comes to food. And so I have that tendency to question people a lot about food. And food questions can come from anywhere. Maybe you have like potluck events where people, let's say at work, people decide to do a potluck and people cook food from their different origins and they bring together. It's an opportunity to get people to talk. Maybe there's that colleague at work that you've never had the opportunity to talk to them. Maybe they're in a completely different department. You don't even know how you can spark conversations with these people, right? Having a potluck event and they bring food is that opportunity that you have to ask them a question, right? So maybe during this potluck, this colleague brings something and you're like, oh, what is this interesting? I've never had this before. It gives another opportunity to talk about, as human beings here, we like to talk about the things we are proud of. And a people's culture, a people's food, a people's language, most of the time are things that are things that they are proud of. And when you give them that opportunity to talk about it, they talk about it with a lot of passion. So you want to find these things and use them in your conversations. We already talked about weather. When I started this, we talked about weather already. So yeah, people ask you like, so weather conversations always come in two ways, right? There are those people who will be like, oh my gosh, not again, another rainy day. Huh. And there are those people who will come and be like, oh wow, what a great day. So depending on the tone that somebody uses, you will tell if the weather that day is one that they find pleasing or one that they find displeasing. You can most of the time you can tell from the tone that they use, right? Oh God. When I first traveled, yeah, when I first left Cameroon and went to another country, this whole weather thing was I'm like, what the heck? Why is everybody talking about weather? Why is everybody asking weather? What has this weather got to do now? It's with weather. And it's like, oh, it took me a while to start checking the forecast to see what the weather will be like the next day or the week. And some people know the forecast for that whole month. They go, I don't do that. I don't. But this weather has been, again, research shows that weather is the highest, is the most used small talk category all over. Like if you like most people use weather to start small talk, right? And it always begins with weather, then it leads into something else. So it's more like even people you can meet somebody who is even asking you up, somebody who is interested in you and they want to ask you, and they don't just come and tell you that, oh, you're yeah, some will tell you like, hey Solange, I love your hair color suits you so well. Hey Solange, I think that those are beautiful shoes, amazing, right? Though some people will start like that, but others want to start with a more general topic. And weather has proven to be one of the most common examples of small talk categories that people use. Right. And when we're talking about, again, we talk of small talk and we make mention, we the way I've been talking, it does sound like you're only looking at somebody that you've never met before. Maybe you're meeting them for the first time. There's also small talk with somebody that you have not seen, you don't see frequently, right? Then you see them again. Sometimes it can be awkward. You're like, How can I get back into conversation with this person? Oh, this is the person I met at that last conference. Now we are here. How can I get back into conversation with them? So that's another challenge is starting small talk. But then you can always be like, oh, the last time we met, you told me you were going to travel to Togo. How did it go? How was that trip? You get it? So you're using that now as an opportunity to start all over again. Sometimes you will not remember, but when you remember, use those examples. The reason that is important is because it makes that other person be like, oh, yeah, they remember. You get it? And there is this thing that a friend of mine shared with me. And he said, when I talk about my doctor, I'm like, hey, I'm one person. I love to keep my doctors. And that is because I feel like they know me. And getting a new doctor or primary care doctor or OBGYN, all of those things can be challenging. But I prefer to keep mine. And I told this friend of mine, I was like, it feels like my doctor knows me so well. It feels like, it feels like he's intentional in taking care of me. And this friend of mine told me, he shared this with me. He said, so, babes, you know what? Do you know one of the main things I have learned since I came to the US and since I started working with other doctors, like with more experienced doctors that are native, that have been in this system for years, is so he said his senior doctor in the hospital had shared with him that you know how you go to the doctor's office when you're visiting the doctor for the first time, right? If you notice, most often even they have a file, they have your file. And what smart doctors do is that when they meet you that first time and they are talking to you, they do ask you questions. And to someone like me, if you ask me what I do, I'll tell you that yes, I do Salesforce, but I never hesitate to tell you that I'm also a podcaster. Okay. So imagine that I've visited my doctor and we're just having general conversations. He's consulting me, he's getting to know his patient. And in the course of doing that, I say, hey, this is what I do. They always ask you what you do for life, right? For a living. And if I say yes, I am an IT consultant, me, I always add that I'm a podcaster too. That's just to tell you how much I love this podcasting thing. Always add it. And 2 months later, 3 months later, I come back to the doctor's office and the doctor is like, hey, Solange, how are you doing today? I'm like, Doc, I'm good though, but if I come here, it means the body needs some attention, or maybe I'm just for checkout. And the doctor turns around and says, hey, and how is the podcast going? Tell me, if that is you, how would you feel? How would you feel? I love to know what you think about that. That about 5 6 months ago I consulted with this guy. This is somebody, or with this doctor, this is somebody that sees multiple patients every day, right? Then I come in about 6 months later and they asked me and they talk to me and they're like, hey, and how is the podcast doing? And maybe I'd spoken to them and even spoken to them about maybe my kid, or even told them my child's name. And they ask you, hey, how is Terry doing today? They called your child's name. How does it make you feel? As human beings, we love that. It makes us feel seen. It makes us feel acknowledged. It makes us feel like, hey, this man remembers me. That is a very great skill. Do you think that that doctor left me on the day he consulted with me thinking about me or remembering that I told him that I am a podcaster? No, he did not. He wrote that thing down on my file. And the next time I was coming to see him, he looked through my file. He looked at my file and because on my consultation sheet, he probably must have written it there that, oh, she's a podcaster. Her daughter's name is Haley. Oh, so they write those things down and they use it when you come back to them. Why do you think they do that? Because they want you to feel comfortable, right? This is still that power of small talk between doctor patients. And again, this is just a doctor patient relationship, but this can apply to anything. It can even apply to you and your colleagues. Maybe you are managing somebody at work. It's the small things, the small talk the little things that people tell you and you remember about them, and you bring up these things again, the truth is it makes them feel seen, which is what most of us human beings crave for. It is that innate attention that we want to get from the people we mingle with. We want to be noticed. We want people to acknowledge our presence. We want people to know that people truly care about us. Right. So if you met a friend, if not even a friend, an acquaintance that you met 4 years ago, and you ask them about something that they told you 4 years ago, the truth is you break down barriers. Like you're just putting everything down and opening up the space for them to talk to you. And that's why I feel that small talk is very important. That is why I feel that we need to make more use of small talk. Making more use of small talk in a way that is respectful of people, in a way that is general, and not using those phrases that people will find offensive or stereotypical. Small talk does magic. A couple of weeks ago, maybe a month or so ago, on the House of Chair Girls live show, my sister and I were talking about networking. You can use small talk as a networking tool, getting to know people. We talked about using having an elevator pitch, right? We talked about having an elevator pitch, which is an opportunity that you get to talk about yourself to someone within a short time, within an elevator ride. Right. Small talk. Again, when I was thinking about having this show today, it occurred to me that a lot of people do not know how to initiate conversations, or they do not know how to start small talk. And that's why I decided to come out here and talk about this, and to help draw that line between seeing somebody. We have that tendency. We know a lot of people, not only women, or not only women. Sometimes we feel that this is just a woman's thing, but you see somebody that you have not seen for a long time, and the first thing you tell them is how, oh, you've put on so much weight. Oh, you get the vibe, right? A lot of people don't like that. Sometimes if you're not sure what has happened, especially if it's somebody that you've not met for a long time, you want to have that conversation with them. Instead of specifying something about their look, you can just go ahead and tell them that they look great, right? Hey, you look good. Right? It's important to come to first start with the things that, with the small talk, the phrases that make people feel acknowledged, with the phrases that compliment people, right? Because when you come, even if that person you feel like they have doubled in size, do not focus on their weight. Do not. Especially if you're just restarting conversations with them, do not focus on their weight. It shuts people down, right? A lot of people will not want to continue that conversation with you if you come. They're going to feel targeted. They're going to feel like, hey, you're being judgmental of how they look and something like that. And we don't want that. You don't want that, especially when it comes to having small talk. You can have conversations like that during your own time, or maybe after you must have reconnected with them, then you can go deep now and ask them about, hey, what happened? Why did you lose so much weight? Or why did you put on so much weight? Or hey, the last time I saw you, you were chocolate brown. Now you are Coca-Cola Fanta. Like, again, take your time. Don't just come out and throw things like that at people's faces. First, it's not ethical. Secondly, it is rude, and it's not an ideal way to spark conversations. Okay. If you don't have anything good to say about how they look, if you don't have anything on their body, or maybe if you feel like telling them that they look good is hypocritical, maybe your mind tells you that they don't look good, then don't even say anything about how they look. Say something else. Comment their shoes, comment the colors they are wearing, if it is something that you can comment on. Or maybe just go use another topic. Then when you people have refamiliarized yourselves, then you can go ahead and say specifics and maybe ask questions on, hey, what's up? What happened? Why do what is happening? Like, why do you look the way you look or something? But you don't just ask questions like that to people that you are not familiar with. So in as much as we encourage small talk, I want you to use it right and use it respectfully. Okay. And the last thing I'm going to talk about before I round up the show, and again, a big thank you to those of you who have been watching. If you happen to watch this later on, please let me know your thoughts. What are some of the questions that you ask when you want to start small talk with someone? And remember that small talk can be conversation openings. It could be a networking. It could be something you do as a result because you want to network. It could be something you do because you want to throw your con, you want to ask a lady or a guy out. It could be something you do because you want to build a relationship, you want to make friends. All right. So let me know if you come across this video, what are some of your thoughts around small talk? What are some of the English phrases you will use for small talk? And what do you think about using a joke as a small talk, as a conversation starter? Is that something you would do? Or if somebody did it to, will you find it funny? If you just met somebody and then you've never known them, and the first thing they say to you is a joke. What do you think about that? I'd love to know your thoughts in the comment section. And as I said, the last thing I wanted to talk about is using small talk to make people. No, let me not put it that way. That's going to lead me into my next show's topic, which I don't want to spill right now. Nope, I'm not going to say that. So I'm going to end it here. Next week, we're going to talk about, I did put a post out today and I was asking like, hey, what happens when you fall out with a friend? Do you cancel them and block them? Right? And we're going to use a folklore. We're going to use a story, one of our Cameroonian folklore, one of our short stories from Cameroon to have that conversation. So I hope to see you all next week. I do appreciate you all for the time you spent on the You Can Be Anything podcast page today. And I also call on you to check out the pinned comment. That is my YouTube channel. Kindly subscribe to my YouTube channel as I'm trying to build audience both on Facebook and on YouTube. I thank you again for your support and let me know your thoughts about small talk. Is this a topic that you think is relevant? Is this a topic that you think you have learned something from? And if there are any other topics that you think we can have conversations about that you would love to get my input on, do not hesitate to inbox me. And remember that I also talk to guests. If you know or if you are somebody that is interested in being a guest of my podcast, do not hesitate to reach out to me. I'm willing to talk to you. I want to hear your story. I want to hear your experiences. I want to hear your challenges, because these are the things that encourages other people who feel like they are stuck in life. I love other people's challenges. I love to share my challenges. I love it when people reach out to me and say, hey, Solange, this is my story. Can I talk to you on your podcast? That always makes my day. So please let me know if you know anybody like that is willing to share. If you're willing to share, I am open to talking to you. And hey, thanks again for my 5K followers on Facebook. I appreciate the support so far. And let's keep doing this. Until I see you again next time, be good to each other. Bye-bye.
You got the power, you got the strength. All you need is a will, this is the knowledge you got to learn. Because it is real. You can be anything, you can be anything. You can be anything, oh, oh, oh.